Last week, we were looking at the idea that the darcha shel geula, the derech of redemption, once it starts, it cannot be interrupted. And we saw from many, many sources in Dvray Chazal, from the words of the rabbi of the Talmud, that we find this idea all over the place. And now I want to turn to the words of the Raሾnim. In connection to the pasuk in Yirmiyahu, where it says, "Al tevtachhu lechem el divrei hashakar," don't trust in them in their false words. Laemar, to say, "Heichal Hashem, Heichal Hashem, Heichal Hashem Ema," 3 times the palace of God, meaning the temple. It is there. The Arukh was the first Talmudic dictionary written by Rabbi Nassan. He was from Rome, and the time at the cusp between the Gaonim and the Rishonim. So he writes, Heichal Hashem, Heichal Hashem, Heichal Hashem Hema. Zeh mikdash Rishon, mikdash Sheni, mikdash Shlishi. This is the first, second, and third temple. Shma minan, trei charuvi, shlishi yamod ad olam. You hear from here that 2 of them will be destroyed, and the third one will stand forever. We also find Tosfos in the Gemara says, "והפסוק הוא סימן לדבר שהם שלשה היכל." The pasuk is a sign to us that there will be 3 times a temple. והשנים עתידין ליחרב, 2 in the future, from Yirmiyahu's point of view, 2 in the future, from our point of view in the past, will be destroyed. והשלישי כיסה יום הגדול והנורא לא ימוש lנצח. And the third one, which is the throne for that great day, meaning the third temple will be in existence when Mashiach comes. It will never be turned away from for eternity, meaning the third temple will stand forever. One can ask on both the Arukh and the Tosfos that they're referring to Heichal, which is the temple, of course. How does this relate to the process of Geula? Maybe only once the temple is built, we're guaranteed that it will not be destroyed. But if the Geula starts, it could be interrupted. As long as the temple has not been built, then the process of Geula could be interrupted. But one has to understand that the temple doesn't stand on its own. The temple is part of the construction of Yerushalayim. This is a long-term process within the process of Geula, and it is the most, let us say, the most important part of the process. And in terms of an interruption in the binyan of Yerushalayim, we can learn from the text of the Havinenu bracha. If one doesn't have enough time to daven the full Shemona Esrei, the Gemara in bracha says he davens the first 3 brachos of Shemona Esrei. Then there's one middle bracha that incorporates all of the intermediate brachos, and then he says the last 3 brachos. So in Havinenu it says, Havinenu Hashem Elokeinu l'das darchecha. You should make us understand God to know your ways. And later on it says, V'yismechu tzadikim b'vinyan erecha b'tikun heichalecha. That the tzadikim should rejoice in the building of your city and the fixing of your palace. Meaning, the tzadikim, this is, V'yismechu tzadikim is for the bracha al tzadikim. And Binyan Yerushalayim is for the bracha of Binyan. And we see that the tzaddikim are rejoicing when these things happen, and it is not possible that they would rejoice over a temporary thing. Meaning, as soon as Yerushalayim is starting to be rebuilt, the tzaddikim understand that this is already in the process of building the temple, and therefore it will not be interrupted. And also we see in the bracha that we say of Yerushalayim in the Shemona Esrei, Yerushalayim ircha barachmim tashuv, and to Jerusalem, your city, you should return with compassion, with rachmim, v'tishkom b'socha, and you will dwell within it, kasher dibarta, like you said. The return to Jerusalem is the Shekhinah returning to Jerusalem and being within it together. The kavanah here is very clearly to the building of Yerushalayim, which leads to the Shekhinah. As the Bach writes, Shekol shelasenu b'birchas Yerushalayim hu b'bin Yerushalayim v'nilva levinyano b'zehu amarnu. And all of our questions concerning the bracha of Yerushalayim is the construction of Yerushalayim and what accompanies that construction. V'zehu amarinu, and this is what we say: Yerushalayim yarcha barachmim tashuv, v'leif no sa, and to Jerusalem, your city, with compassion you return, and to build it. V'tishkon b'socha kasher dibarta, and you will do well in it, like you said. V'hu shetishkon shechina b'beis hamikdash, and that is that the Shekhinah should dwell in the Beis Mikdash. Hu kolel b'binyan ha'ir u'b'binyan ha'bayis b'chlalo. This is talking about the construction of the city and the construction of the temple within it. V'im ken kol zei dahainu binyan Beis Mikdash u'binyan kisei David hu binyan bin Yerushalayim mamish. That is to say, the building of the temple and the construction of the throne of David, all of this is the building of Yerushalayim itself. Shari Beis Hamikdash v'chisei David hakol hu nivne b'soch Yerushalayim. The Beis Hamikdash and the throne of David can only be in Yerushalayim. V'gam yesh lehem shayachus el Yerushalayim, and they're connected to Jerusalem. Ubal korchenu tzrichim anachnu lefarish ken, and so we have to explain it this way. Tim lo ken ma inyan kisei David lebinyan Yerushalayim. If we do not say this, why would we have the throne of David HaMelech in Yerushalayim? It would have to be a separate thing, not part of the construction of Yerushalayim. It would be a separate bracha of itself, different bracha. So we see that the Mikdash and Yerushalayim are connected. So once the Yerushalayim is starting to be built, this goes on to the Mikdash and onto the eventual appearance of Mashiach. And therefore, the Tosfos and the Arach, when they're explaining that the third temple cannot be destroyed, it's the entire process. Once the entire process is started, it cannot be interrupted. Looking at other Rishonim, it says in Eicha, Tam avonech bas Zion, your sins are complete, the daughter of Zion. Lo yosayif lahag los ech, you will not be continued to be exiled. And Rashi explains, Lo yosif lahag los ech, you will not be exiled again. Migalos Edom v'halan od, from the exile of Edom forward. Migalos Edom, that means once. Galos Edom is the last exile, right? So Rashi is saying is after Galos Edom, after you've been returned, after the exile of Edom, you will never be exiled again. Further in the pasuk of Hosea, Yechanu miyomayim, they will camp for 2 days. B'yom hashlishi yikampmenu v'nichyeh lefanav. On the third, we will get up and live before him. The Radak explains, Zeh hamamarhu al hatid. This is talking about the future. Miyomayim mishel shtei galios. This is the exiles, Galus Mitzrayim v'Galus Babel, the exile of Egypt and the exile of Babylon. B'yom hashlishi, the third day, Mashal l'Galus hazeh, this is a parable to the exile worth and hashlishi, the third one. She'yakamenu mimenu v'niyeh lefanav, shelo nigle od leolam, that when we get up from this and we return home, and we will live before him, we will never be exiled again. The Ramban, in his commentary on Shir HaShirim, he says, Uvirshayon malchei umos uzazrasam yelchu le'eretz Yisrael, with the permission of the kingdoms of the world, and with their help, we will go to Eretz Yisrael. Vi hamalchus hahi nimshach, and that kingdom, that government that is created when the nations allow us to go back, Feinu posek le'olam, and this government will never be interrupted again. We can find this in the end of the period of the Raishonim, from those that were exiled from Spain. Rabbi Yitzchak Abarbanel writes in his Sefer Mashmiya Yeshua, Lo iyu osam shenichnasu le'eretz Yisrael she'acharei shivtam aleha galu v'nasu mimenu. We will not be like those that entered into Eretz Yisrael, and then after they dwelt there, they had to flee from it. Aval tiyeh simchas olam al rasha. It will be an eternal rejoicing on their heads. Pasuk in Yeshayahu, rotzei lamar. That means to say, simcha olam nitzchis, that this is an eternal happiness. Lefi she'sason v'simcha yasigun, because happiness and rejoicing will catch up with them. V'hayusam shama, when they are there. Mipnei shelo yavo od legalos, because they will never again come to be exiled. Nasu mihem yagon v'nacha, and will flee for them all wails and sighs. V'shehivtiach od, and he guarantees more. Achrei osa hagula, that after that exile, lo yeshuvu od legalos, they will never be exiled again. V'zei kulo mimashi yochiach she'anevua hazu b'chol chalkecha lo niskaima b'bayisheni, and we see that this nevuah was not fulfilled in the second temple. V'sha'atida hi lehiskayem b'vias mashichenu b'mehera yigalei, and it will be completely fulfilled with the coming of Mashiach. He should swiftly be revealed to us. In the Sefer Tzror Hamor from Rav Avram Saba, who also lived through the exile from Spain, he writes, Loros lanu, this comes to teach us, Ki Shlosha Bate Mikdash Yu L'Yisrael, that 3 temples will exist to the Jewish people. Keneged Shlosha Avos, comparable to the 3 forefathers. Hashnaim Atidim Licharv, 2 will be destroyed. V'ashlishi lo ye cherev, ela yu kayim leolam. The 3rd one will not be destroyed; it will exist forever. V'keneged habayis shlishi, and for the 3rd temple, she'ein charev leolam amar, that will not be destroyed forever. The pasuk says, amar Yaakov karu be'ayis. Yaakov Avinu called it a house. Shenamar, as it says, vayab beis Elokim, and this will be the house of God. Shepirusho, this is ye mikoach hachrach beis Elokim leolam. It is inherently necessary that this will be the house of God forever. Shazeh keneged habayis hashlishi. This is the 3rd temple. Asher Allah Amar, that it says about it, Kodol ye kavod habayis hazeh ha'achron min harishon. Chagai says, the great will be the honor of the 3rd temple more than the 1st. V'chat ma'amar, and Yirmiyahu finishes, Lo yinatshu v'lo yahares od leolam. They will not abandon it, and it will not be destroyed again forever. these are some of the places where the Rishonim show us that the third temple will not be destroyed again. And the Rishonim do not seem to talk about it nearly as much. I mean, we saw some of their commentaries from looking at the words of Chazal, because it was very strongly shown to us this in the words of Chazal, and we see that the Rishonim understood it in the same way. Next week, we will look into the words of the Achronim on this concept of Gula Shlishis Ein La Hafsek, that once the third redemption starts, it cannot be interrupted, and everyone should have a good and meaningful day.